all the people who come to San Francisco drive by San Bruno Mountain. It's important that they know what's really there. There are so many rare and endangered species that live on San Bruno Mountain together in concert that it is truly a miracle. And it's completely surrounded by urban development.
This little plant right here is all around. That plant is lupin. And lupin is the home of a rare and endangered butterfly, Mission blue. Used to be all over San Francisco and up and down the peninsula, and now it's rare and endangered. That butterfly are indicated.
The Mission blue is endangered because its habitat is critically imperiled. There's only so many places that it lives in the planet.
What we're going to see a lot of is this, which is scabiosa. It can take over the grassland and smother out the native plants, and this is prime butterfly territory, so we need to...
Some butterflies are cosmopolitan. It doesn't like it here, it'll go somewhere else, it'll feed on another weed here and another weed here. But the Mission blue butterfly is very specific, just to the plants and other insects that are in this little island. In terms of immediate needs, the Mission blue butterfly, it certainly needs a sort of place that you and I say is somewhat intact, in that there's not weeds encroaching onto their lands.
When I was a kid, the only thing you could see was the Bay Bridge, maybe one or two things, and the Coit Tower was the tallest thing on the skyline.
Really?
None of these houses were here at all. I can remember very clearly the first time I hiked to the top of San Bruno Mountain. I was about 5. You'd go up there after school and just nestle down in the tall grass and let the butterflies fly over you while you just sat there and watched the world.
What we're losing, obviously, is right over there. You can see the houses. They're right on top of what was Mission blue butterfly. That was a change for the whole United States, starting right here.
In 1982, the Reagan administration amended the Endangered Species Act to provide protection for a private landowner on San Bruno Mountain who wished to build a major housing development on Mission blue habitat. And it became a giant loophole within the Endangered Species Act that was specifically crafted for San Bruno Mountain, but which has since become a precedent for well over 1,000 other habitat conservation plans, as they came to be called, across the country. The idea of the plan is that the landowners would mitigate for their destruction of critical habitat by enhancing habitat elsewhere on the mountain and paying money in order to perpetuate those projects. Removal of invasive weeds, planting of host plants and nectar plants for the butterflies. The problem was that there's no standard that called for demonstrating the feasibility and success of these mitigations before the developers were allowed to proceed with their destruction.
So just looking here, what would be habitat would probably be more like that ridgeline up where those...
We were looking at maps that were part of the original Habitat Conservation Plan, and they show the populations of Mission blue, where they were greatest and where they didn't appear to be present.
That means this entire hillside is supposed to be habitat, although there's a lot of scrub up there.
We find in these developments that some of the areas were, according to the maps, absolutely dense populations of these butterflies, which means there were dense populations of host plants and nectar plants in those very areas.
Definitely a lot more weeds in here.
A lot more fennel here.
Yeah.
And we look now at what was to be only temporarily disturbed habitat, and we find them full of weeds. We find them to be marginal at best in very small places, maybe a few lupins here and there. There just hasn't been the enhancement and the stewardship of these areas that was promised point by point in the Habitat Conservation Plan.
Can I give you a flyer about saving the butterfly? We really need everybody to speak up and tell the council no more gigantic houses in the middle of the habitat. They want to fragment the population.
Are they going to do it again?
71 more 4,000 plus square foot homes.
Really? I didn't even know about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to build another development up on San Bruno
do?
Mountain. Yep, another 71 huge
was
homes.
that already originally the plan from a long time ago still? Or is it something
It's
new?
a revised plan from a long time ago.
Can I give you a flyer about the... It's a double-edged sword when you live in the same place all your life, because on the one hand you're very attached and very rooted, and it's very difficult because you see the changes and have a basis for comparison. It's like The Last Stand, Jerry. What they split the habitat,
I
they
know
won't
about Last
last.
Stand.
Yeah. They won't.
I will. And then I love you.
I do think that if enough people come, that the emotion of the subject will make them change their mind and not approve this.
That's all right. The butterflies belong to everybody, so please write or call our city council. If this was being taken to a vote of the people, we would win, period. Can I give you a flyer? We get such an outpouring of support when we stand out here and talk to people about it, and they're just not aware of what's happening. It's right up here on the ridge. It's their last habitat, and this housing development would fragment it, and that would, yeah.
Okay, we'll take a look at
Thank you so much. I think that we have this much of a chance of succeeding. But if I didn't pour my whole heart into trying, then we would have this much chance of succeeding.
So we'll make the attempt, and hopefully we'll get enough public members to comment to them that they'll think about it and not just rubber stamp it.
If everyone looks at their map of acquisitions, we have a purchase agreement for Sousa 3 property. It's a 1,021 acre property. There's an envelope of open space all around this set of homes and the next one over. Another one that I believe closed on Monday is Ong, which is the property right in front of us. Basically runs the entire length of the Clayton city limits.
We went into this process knowing that some habitat conservation plans were failures. And we're not doing very good work. And yet at the same time we continued, in part because we knew how much was being lost to development impacts. Forcing all the developments to comply with endangered species regulation was a huge improvement.
If you see down here, you see at the bottom of this drainage it looks a little bit green, and that is wetter. Our tour is going to go to a pond that almost never fails when we bring visitors there to have red-legged frogs in it.
We acquire land and then we transfer it to park agencies for long-term management using HCP funds.
So keeping your eye out, there's various amphibians here. Probably you'll see red-legged frog.
What we think of as a natural landscape is just an idea in somebody's mind. There are no natural landscapes. There are richer or poorer landscapes with more or less of the original native species that were found there. A lot of times, the places that are really good for wildlife look like a stockyard or an overgrazed area or something like that. The Habitat Conservation Plan is doing ecological historical research to help restore and recreate some of the habitats that were here 200 years ago. You don't want to lose the possibilities of improving the existing situation while waiting until you have perfect knowledge. It's never going to happen. Here's one right here. See this guy right here just on the edge of the water? They're a really good indicator of water quality and all kinds of other environmental factors. As Westerners, we have a very skewed idea of what wilderness is. Generally, in the heads of the artists and explorers who were talking about wilderness, it was this empty place, often a beautiful and empty wild place. But that's not the way wilderness really is. If we don't manage lands, a lot of them will turn into 100% non-native species, crowding out the natural species that we treasure.